Mr. Pollack, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me on to discuss this important message.
Yes.
It's a crucial message. First, let me start by saying I'm very, very, very sorry for your loss, sir.
Yes.
Mike and I both have 2 daughters, and I have a son as well, and I can't even imagine.
Can't imagine what you're going through.
Can't even imagine. Yeah. I've read about half the book thus far. I just got it a couple days ago, and it's hard to even put down. But the new book that you have out, Why Meadow Died, The People and Policies That Created the Parkland Shooter and Endanger America's Students. This is an absolute must-read. I've been talking for a while, Mike and I both, about the failures at the FBI, but it's so much more.
Yeah, I mean, you're exposing layer upon layer of failures, right? And by the way, we said we're going to buy a bunch of these books and start sending them out to every school administrator in the country.
Yeah.
Thanks. If you could get them, it's hard to even find these books.
That's a great point, because we did try to buy 2 and we couldn't get one with it. It was going to take about 30 to 60 days to get it. So,
yep.
But well, tell us about first of all, the Democrats have told us that it's all about guns. But as you've pointed out, there's been a number of different layers of failure, from the school policies to the guards to the law enforcement to the FBI. And I don't even know where to start here. I mean, there's just tons of misinformation on the Parkland shooting and gun control itself.
Yeah, well, to tell you the truth, it's kind of demented, because I really just got into this to really find out how that could have happened to my daughter at the school. I wanted to know everyone who failed, the policies, and I wanted accountability that's what my daughter would want. And that's how I went into it. Nothing. I didn't have to watch the news, what they were pushing. I have no agenda. I'm not running for office. I just had my daughter murdered, and for me, I wanted to know how that could possibly happen. And as I got into it, I started finding all these failures out, and everyone was calling me. So many people were calling me. They knew this kid was the shooter, the killer, before he left the building, school. You know what I mean? And the day after the shooting, the superintendent, Runcie, who comes from Chicago, was already talking gun control and the NRA before my daughter's funeral.
Let me ask you specifically, I guess, when you bring up Chicago, the failures of the federal government, the Obama administration, right? And maybe talk a little bit about, I mean, you've educated me on the fact that, some of these kids who should be punished are not being punished.
Yeah, and it hurts them. Like, it sets them up for failure, what they don't get. So this policy started with they wanted to end the school-to-prison pipeline. They wanted to lower suspensions and expulsions. So what they do is they just stop it. You know what I mean? When Runcie came to Broward County from Chicago, it was a miracle. He reduced crime by 70% in like a little over a year. So what happens is they just stop reporting it. And they offer other programs like healing circles that teachers should be involved with, and putting them into programs that really doesn't show them any consequence. So you hurt everybody. And these policies, I want parents to know, like my book, Why Meadow Died, it's more of a manual for parents, I'm calling it. Parents, if you think it's just in Broward, that's false. It's all over the country, these policies of a lack of discipline in the public school systems. In California right now, if parents want to look that are listening, they just signed it into law, Gavin Newsom, that it's illegal to suspend disruptive children in the classroom.
Right.
So that is the exact policy that created a culture of leniency within the school district in Broward, which enabled this kid to never, ever get arrested. Okay, I have notes that I found through the school district that this kid said he wanted to kill, that the teacher said he couldn't differentiate violent video games from reality. They had to tie his desk down because he was so violent in the school. He would throw things in the school. He was a danger to teachers and to students, but they allowed him to be in the class.
It's unreal.
He would draw stick figures, and then he like shooting people. The teacher said when she thought about the Civil War, he got so excited because they talked to people that got killed and blood. He wanted to know if the people that were killed were eaten. And if parents think this is the only kid in the school districts, that it's happening. There's hundreds of kids like this. What I had to find out, which was I had to find it out because I have a civil suit going on to hold everyone accountable. In my last deposition of one of the security guards, which they failed to tell the parents about this stuff, they had to frisk this killer before school every morning. That's how dangerous he was. And they weren't allowed. He wasn't allowed in with a backpack, and they had to frisk him. But they thought it was okay
to let him in there.
It was okay to let him into the school with my daughter.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. It's Andy, in this book, you quote a lot of these teachers, and one it struck me. This teacher Jan wrote, I feel strongly that he is a danger to the students and faculty at this school. I mean, she flat out said it. I don't feel he understands the difference between violent video games and reality. He's constantly showing aggressive behavior and poor judgment.
How is he in that school? Angela, let me ask you this. With all the stuff you're doing, are we making progress? I mean, it seems to me, and I saw one of your videos where you brought up an incredibly excellent point, which is, you want to walk through an airport. Congressmen, by the way, they're not walking in to a meeting without going through a metal detector, yet we're sending our children every single day exposed without any kind of support to make sure that people like this gentleman, I'm not going to mention his name, walks into that school.
We are making progress in Florida. Okay, I've seen a lot, and across the country. I'm getting so many emails about how schools are taking security serious. They're letting. What's very important, what we found out in the investigation, is when seconds count, first responders are minutes away, or they even go in the building. So you need to train people that voluntarily want to go for training so they're right there if something happens. That's one of the things that we found out through our commission training. But what parents, I want everyone to know is that ultimately responsible way you send your child to school. You guys have kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you spoke to any parent that had a kid murdered in a school, they would say, all of them would say, I never thought it could happen to me, like you guys.
Yep.
It's normal. You guys, it can never happen to me. And then it's terrible. Something could happen. So I'm not saying for you guys that this kid, like your kid's going to get shot. But the issue is you guys ultimately are responsible for the environment you're going to put your children into, okay? So what I'm getting at is if these schools have these type of policies with these lack discipline policies, okay, you have a good chance of putting your kid who wants to learn in with disruptive kids that don't have any consequence. They're committing crimes. They could sell drugs, and it's going on throughout all these a lot of the public schools. And to put your kid in an environment like that, it's really, to me, if I would have read this book 2 years ago, before this happened, my daughter would be alive because I would have had her in a private school. And say anything in the world, I would sell my liver if I had to.
Of course. My
daughter in a private school because look. When's the last time you heard about there was a school shooting, a mass shooting at a Christian school, a Jewish school, a Muslim school? Right. It's all the reason why is they don't have to take these type of kids and mainstream them. And they do that at these not all the public schools. So that's why I'm saying, parents, you need to read my book, Why Meadow Died, to see if these policies are at your kid's school.
In New York, Governor Cuomo just passed a law that will not allow any school boards to allow teachers to carry concealed in school or have armed security. It's outrageous. It's going just like California, we're going in the wrong direction. Andrew Pollack is with us. He's the author of Why Meadow Died, the People and Policies that Created the Parkland Shooter and Endanger America's Students. I wanted to ask you about the Promise Program. You mentioned it earlier as regarding to, being able to commit crimes and not being, introduced to the justice system. But in Broward County specifically, they had a program called the Promise Program that allowed up to 4 misdemeanors a year to just be wiped clean and expunged from a record before the next year you start clean. That's insane to me.
Yeah, so this started here, and then, he has ties. When Superintendent Runcie came to Broward, he had ties to the Secretary of Education, Arnie Duncan. He worked for him in Chicago. This is how this whole thing happened. So they loved the stats so much that they used Broward as a model because he reduced crime. There's no more crime anymore. So let's do these policies throughout the whole country. Let's write letters to all these school districts and threatening them to shut off federal funding if they don't follow Broward's lead. And that's what went on throughout the whole country. And what was important, though, a lot of people don't know this, but I met with the president, and he formed the School Safety Federal Commission. And for about 10 months, they did a bunch of research, and he rescinded these policies. But and everyone always, I get a lot of hate because I'm a supporter of the president. I'm personally friends with him right now, and they think that he never did anything, like he doesn't do anything. But his administration did so much. But that's why I say it's up to the parents. He can't do anything at a local level. Like Broward still has these programs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though the president rescinded it, any school district with their school board could vote to implement it, like they do in Broward. So 4 misdemeanors a school year. They changed it now. I think now they lowered it to 3.
Oh, good.
Okay, school district.
That's a joke.
And so they even, like kids, they allow, I don't know the legal amount for selling drugs. Just call it an ounce. I have no clue. For marijuana, a kid could get caught in Broward, say he had 15 bags of weed with intent to distribute, and it was under the felony amount. He still wouldn't meet law enforcement. He would still go into this program where they do the healing circles and they, and they try and, help them in that way. If parents think about this, even Democrat parents, I don't even know. Do you have any even Democrats listening on this week?
Yeah, a few.
Probably not. Yeah, a
Not
couple
many.
on this show. It's like a train wreck for them. They can't look away.
Yeah.
Look, even in their platforms, the Democrats, I can't see being a parent and thinking that these laws of not holding kids accountable, of not being able to suspend them with no consequence, how could they want that in their classroom with their kids? It's like, I can't understand that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't make to any sense. Anybody with a brain would say, I don't want my son or daughter next to that person, right?
Doesn't matter what your Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter.
Forget about it, right? Andy, let me ask you this. Because your message has not been the traditional message of gun control, how has the mainstream media covered you?
Crickets, man. I can't. I could have camped with a tent in the Fox building between Chicago and New York, and not one of the other stations would have me on. And I tried to get on because, to me, it's a message that every parent should know about these policies. When your kid's getting shot or bullied or assaulted, they don't ask the kid if you're a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
I mean? But I'm at the point now, if Democrats don't want to listen, then roll the dice, put these policies in place, and send your kid, to a gun-free zone, to where kids could there could be chaos, no discipline. You know what I mean?
A gun-free zone where a kid could have 4 misdemeanors or, let's say, 3 under their belt and be sitting right next to your son or daughter.
Yes.
On a daily basis.
You know what I'm saying? Like, these are facts that I got. You're reading stuff from the school district that I got. And they didn't want to have me on because I'm not, pushing a gun agenda because that's not what the facts were when I looked into it. Like I said, if I would have looked into it and those were the facts, I'd be telling you. And another thing with these Democrats, with their, all you hear now when you turn on some of the news is universal background checks. Okay, all these background checks wouldn't have made one difference with my daughter getting murdered because they never arrested him. These policies that the Democrats push of not arresting kids, it's anti-gun control because they won't have a background.
Yeah, well, they want to push these policies, but yet you see the same criminals back out on the streets. It's the same outside of the school district. It's the same thing with the court system. You see these scumbags go into jail, and they're out time and time and time again. We talk about there's been shootings here in Buffalo, and you'll read in the paper, wow, this
fourth conviction.
Yeah. Just got out of jail 3 months ago. How could that happen?
Right.
How could that happen? And then I hear we don't have any money, Andy. That's my favorite thing. We don't have any money. Really? Because they're giving iPads to these criminals in the prisons here in New York. Well, if we have no money, why do they have iPads? We're talking about putting air conditioning units in, and so a lot of the prisons have air conditioning units.
It's crazy.
Air conditioning units. If we have no money, why do they have air conditioning? I grew up without air conditioning. I survived.
You commit a crime, and who gives a crap what they get?
That's right.
Whether they have air conditioning.
That's right.
Or they're sweating to death.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Hey, look, I'm not going back next time because there's no AC. Maybe I won't commit crimes.
Yep.
Maybe that technique will work. But even let me make an example. So he threatened to kill people. He wasn't arrested, okay? He trespassed at the school, wasn't arrested. He threatened to rape people. The police sign on to policies, too, when they politicize the department with an elected a politician. So the police were at his house 45 times, never arrested.
That is ridiculous.
So if these Democrats, you want to push background checks, background checks don't work if you don't enforce the laws that are already in place. We saw it now. They don't bring this stuff up, but the Dayton shooter, he knew everyone in the school knew he was going to kill people too. He had a rape list, never arrested. And you want to stop these mass shootings? What about the mentally ill on the streets that are violent and threatening themselves? A threat to themselves and others. They should have a background also. Commit them, put background checks on them, make it harder for them to purchase a rifle. Those are solutions.
Yeah, harder to purchase a rifle and impossible to sit next to your son or daughter after when you've got a proven track record of being a nut job.
Right.
Yep, it's their platform, and we have to win 2020 because part of that, Joe Biden's already saying that he wants to bring back those Obama era policies on his website. Beto O'Rourke the other night mentioned it about suspensions of students and in California. So if parents, like I'm saying, you got to go tell everyone to go out and vote. And more than that, how about go buy my book, Why Meadow Died, and really see this jaw-dropping policies that are going on in the public schools. And it's your responsibility if you're a parent. You can't say you didn't know. You have options. I tell everybody, read this book. If you have to, look into charter schools, look into private school, look into homeschool, look into a school district. There are public schools that don't participate in these type of policies.
It's amazing that just the failures from every single level. It's as if any one of those teachers, administrators, psychiatrists, law enforcement, sheriffs, FBI. If any of them had made a different decision, this was probably the most preventable school shooting in history.
Uber, I don't even know if I forgot it. It's probably in the book. Uber driver picks him up at his house, like at 2:10, right, in the afternoon, picks him up with a regular Cabela's rifle bag and drives him to the school, okay? That's in the book. Then, even to boot, there's a monitor that's at the gate, sees him get out of the Uber with the rifle bag. And all he had, the guy's the worst guy on the planet, this guy that was at the gate, Andrew Medina. He sees the guy gets out of the Uber with the rifle bag. He recognizes him as Crazy Boy, but he didn't want to approach him because he thought he might have had a handgun with him.
But never calls out a code red.
But
right?
Says, I didn't want to be the guy to call the code red because I didn't want to be the guy to send all the police to the school.
Unbelievable.
On his testimony, like you could Google this guy, and you would actually after I watched his testimony to the Broward Sheriff's Office, like for some reason it was on YouTube. Like I couldn't believe it, man, when I saw his testimony. That the following day, I went up to the school. He was still working there at the gate, if you could believe it. After he watched the guy walk through the gate and kill 17 people, doesn't call a code red, they still had him at the gate the following school year. I went up there and I said, this guy's not working here anymore. And the principal fired him the next day. He was gone.
Yeah, but had you not done that, he would probably still be there.
How do you have to do that? That is
right.
That is amazing.
It's the bureaucracy. It goes right to the top, unfortunately.
Every government agency has been a miserable failure throughout this. A miserable failure.
Yes.
Unreal.
All in my book, Why Meadow Died, and I'm sick. My life will never be the same.
Yeah.
No parent do I wish this on anyone. And then you can't say, I don't want a parent to say, I don't know. You guys, look, I just schooled you two.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's going on. Hopefully you won't put your kids in an environment like I did, because I didn't know. So I'm hoping everyone gets the message out there from this book and listening to me, that they don't make the mistake that I did, and they put their kids in the right school.
Andy, this show goes out to a big chunk of South Florida. Now, you're doing a book signing, right? Is that right, this week?
On Tuesday, I think, right?
Okay.
Tuesday I'm in Palm Beach, and then on the 24th somewhere in West Palm. And then I'm going to be in Barnes & Noble. I told them that if they don't have books, I'm not going to Barnes & Noble. Noble's October 2nd, Coral Springs at 7 p.m. And if they have books, I'll be there. If not, we'll all go to my buddy's restaurant at Wings Plus on Sample Road. Brian's my good friend, and I'll buy everybody a beer there. I won't be able to sign any books.
Andy, is there a website that you'd like to direct people to so they can follow you?
Well, my Twitter, I'm mostly on my Twitter, is Andrew Pollack FL.
Okay.
And if you want, Amazon has the book. I'm sure it's showing a month delivery. Hopefully they move it up, Amazon, and it's worth the wait, because you can't put anything price on your kids' safety.
No doubt.
And that's what this book really puts you into reality. And it's not what the media made it out to be, okay, with all these kids, with their national attention, with the media, with the gun. Even you guys want to talk about this Beto O'Rourke with his, he wants to ban ARs and AKs and all the BS that he spews. 2 months or 3 months after Parkland, there was a mass shooting in Santa Fe, in Texas, in his home state, and they used a shotgun and a pistol.
Right. And
really cared about anything. Here,
yeah.
It's a shotgun and a pistol. How come you don't speak about that shooting?
Right.
And 10 people were murdered. I went out to Santa Fe. My heart was, I just felt for those parents, and no one to talk to a parent that happened to that knows what it feels like except me. So I went out there. I spent a few days with a family that I still keep in touch with, and he doesn't even mention his own state. Well, how come, if he's so against guns, what happened in his own state with a shotgun and a pistol?
Yeah.
So no matter what they spew, even with my daughters, if they ban and really it's a semi-automatic rifle, there's thousands of them out there. Okay, the kid would have just went and bought a shotgun, got a pistol, or ran him over.
Yeah, that's right. A bottle of gasoline. A bottle of gasoline.
Well, look at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech was I think the biggest school shooting in our history still, and that was done with a pistol. So it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Virginia Beach just happened at that municipality building.
Yeah.
That was a pistol.
Right.
And, this kid was just sick, and he could have done what he did with a musket.
Yeah, he was sick, and they knew it. They knew it. And it was layer upon layer of government failure, from the school principals to the guards to the FBI to the Obama administration, and letting these kids continue to get in trouble with 4 misdemeanors, and they're still next to your daughter. Layer after layer of failure, and they don't want to admit to any of it. They want to go right back to the same old agenda, which is, we're going to take guns out of good law-abiding citizens' hands.
Yep, and that sheriff in Broward is running again.
That's unreal.
Yeah, that's unreal.
That is unreal.
Listen.
And we're going to help you, by the way. We're going to do whatever we can down there to try to help support you and make sure that he doesn't win.
Yeah,
that's right.
To tell you the truth, I'm done with Broward. I did my job. I moved out of that toxic. It's a toxic county. The leadership of Broward, the Democrats that run it. I have to. Every time I do a public speaking engagement, I say I don't like to categorize the Democrats that much, because Broward, I just despise them. Categorizing the Democrats of Broward with all the other Democrats in the country. But I just learned to despise them because they're so unethical, the ones I dealt with. The superintendent, he's a guy, he didn't do anything wrong. The sheriff, he was on CNN, amazing leadership. with his policies. The deputy didn't go in. You got a supervisor of elections. How many counties get 2 elected officials removed in the same year? The supervisor of elections and that sheriff that was removed. And now, the school board is under a grand jury investigation. And at the end of the day, there were all these Democrats that failed to accept responsibility.
Yep.
I wouldn't even have wrote this book if they told me, listen, I know about these failures. Andy, we made a mistake. We're going to look into these policies, and we're going to fix it and make sure this never happens again. I'm done, bro. I don't have to hold them all accountable. But for my daughter, and I'm never going to let these people get away with just brushing it under the rug and blaming guns when it had nothing to do with it. So one by one, we've been chipping away. The sheriff, the supervisor of elections, the deputy got arrested on felony charges. The school board, they're doing a big grand jury into it. So little by little, we're chipping away at these people in Broward. And hopefully Broward smartens up the residents of Broward, because it's up to them when it's election time. You want to put that guy back in, have at it. You know what I mean? I did my job by getting him removed. If they want to put him back in, it's up to the people of Broward.
Well, God
Andy,
bless
we'll keep
you,
going.
Andy. God bless
keep
you.
going. Keep holding him accountable. You'll be our special guest this week as well in our podcast. We'll be talking to you again on Tuesday. That'll be released Wednesday. And I will try to come out and see you on Tuesday at the book signing. I'll actually be down in Florida for a few days this week if possible. So
yeah, could you repeat your Twitter handle again? I know we're getting some text messages on the text board where
Andrew Pollack, POLLACK
And I will tweet out a link to your Twitter as well, so those that follow us at Finn Guys can follow that also. Andrew Pollack, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. Why Meadow Died, the people and policies that created the Parkland shooter and endanger America's students is an absolute must-read for every single parent in this country. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Guys, we'll see you.
Yeah, God
we'll
bless.
talk to you on Tuesday.
Keep up the fight. Thanks.
Take care.